Hi everyone, Michael Britt here. The Psych Files podcast passed the 20 million download mark. And a lot of that success is due to my episodes on how you can use memory strategies to remember just about anything. From memorizing terms for a test to remembering people's names at a party or a meeting, I put all of these episodes into one audio course. Hippos, aliens, and llamas quickly master the tricks to a great memory. And it's available now on avid.fm/memorymaster, all one word. I think there's a lot of people who range from, outright, hatred to sort of a dismissal of the whole field of psychology. And as a psychologist, I feel it necessary to defend the whole field. Actually, the whole thing, this episode started because Kevin came to the website and left a comment, and he was commenting on a post, actually, that I made in which I had pulled out some of my favorite quotes from a parenting textbook. That's not even a textbook, a parenting book called How to Talk So Your Kids Will Listen, and Listen So Your Kids Will Talk. And it's a great book. I love it. Big fan. I interviewed the author, one of the two authors, Adele Faber, the other author, Elaine Maslish. And so I pulled out some of my favorite quotes. Anyway, so Kevin left a comment saying that he felt that a lot of it was just psychobabble, which the existence of that word indicates that there are a lot of people who think that what psychologists talk about is babble. But continuing on, he said that kids need discipline and not this spoiled brat stuff that he was hearing in the quotes in the interview. And the talk like that had caused the self-esteem movement, which has a bad reputation. So that was one of the first things. So in this episode, and maybe there'll be more than one, because I started to think about that. I actually been gathering some notes in response to Kevin, his thought here about, psychology, psychobabble, and all the things that are wrong with it. And I posted something on the Facebook group and got some responses from David, Esther, and Brian. And by the way, you might want to stop by if you're a Facebooker. It's just facebook.com/groups/thepsychfiles. Don't forget the. And about 680 or so members there. So I usually drop some thoughts in there, some questions about the upcoming episodes. So feel free to come by on Facebook and join up. And you can also follow me on Twitter, mbrit. Let's talk about why people hate psychology. I think there are a whole bunch of reasons, and I'd like to defend them. So we can start with the self-esteem movement. I think this is a tough one. I guess what I'll say is that I don't know that this is all psychology's fault, but it started with a really good idea. An idea which, is today sort of underpins much of psychotherapy. So it started in psychotherapy and then sort of spread out from there like a disease, some might say, and went into education, and it's become this sort of thing that everybody hates. Even psychologists hate many of them hate what has become of this idea of how good it is to have self-esteem. So here's my take on where this came from and what kind of happened here. First off, when you think about psychology, right, you think about Sigmund Freud and B.F. Skinner, Pavlov, and all that. So for a long period of time in psychology's history, which itself isn't that long, it was, we focused on mental illness and all the things that can go wrong with you. You can have complexes and unburied sorts of feelings and, all that kind of thing, the sort of Freudian perspective. The whole behaviorist thing with Watson and Skinner is more of a, the world is, you're being manipulated. So there's a lot of negativity to psychology for a good part of its early life. And then along come the 50s and the 60s, and people like Abraham Maslow and Carl Rogers. And so they have a really positive philosophy on human beings, and their thought was, look, let's not be so directive in therapy. Let's not tell people what's wrong with them, or to try to interpret their dreams or talk to them and about their mothers, or even to try to change their environment. We believe, we being Carl Rogers and Maslow, that people are naturally moving toward a healthy self, right? That they will self-actualize. That's Maslow's term. And that really, so we are that is a natural drive. And we naturally become healthy. And so the only thing we really need to do if we're to help someone else, particularly now from Carl Rogers' perspective, is to just help that person get the things that block them out of the way. So we're really more of a guide than a prescriptive kind of person. And so he started what's called client-centered therapy. Let's let the client lead things, and let them figure out the solutions to their problems because they know them best. And let's just see if we can help them to get to think through what's bothering them. Maybe they can't see it that clearly. And so, Carl Rogers' approach is to give the person a setting, a therapeutic office, which has unconditional positive regard. In other words, let's the reason why people get sick, according to Carl Rogers, is that their parents and other significant others in their lives teach them in one way or another, through perhaps saying things like, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. They're taught that parts of themselves are bad and parts of themselves are good. And so you learn to get out of touch with some of your feelings. You're not allowed to grow into that naturally healthy self because you're taught that parts of you are bad and you're ashamed and you don't really have a connection with your full self. And so in this environment, the therapeutic environment, let's let people say whatever they want to say. Let's not pass judgment on it. Let's let them explore their lives and their problems, and let's just help them go with it. So at the base level, you might just say to people, how did you feel about that? Or how did that make you feel? Tell me more about that. Right, so you're sort of prodding them to just explore some things. Now that in itself, that whole approach has been widely criticized itself. It's gone from a really great idea, and it's still a great idea. It's still a great idea, and this is where I agree with Adele Faber, many, many others, obviously, before her, that just being listened to quietly by someone else, seriously, actively listened, is that's like vitamins. That's just really, really good. It's really good for all of us to have, and many of us just don't have it. It's just hard to find someone who'll listen to us, and so that's really number one there. So let's listen and let's be non-judgmental. And let's guide people, and let's see if we can help them to explore themselves, help them to clear away. If you see yourself as sort of like a stream, with clear water, then the things you need to get out of the way are the huge rocks, right? The things that are blocking you from just going smoothly towards the ocean. We're getting carried away there. So that's a really great idea. And the problem is, though, that a lot of times really great ideas that often start in the therapeutic setting get taken out of that setting. And then people start to think, well, what if we did that in schools? What if we just, let's help people feel good about themselves. And the next thing you know, the whole thing explodes. And we've got kids being given awards for things that maybe didn't really require that much work. And so there really is, and as I say, a lot of psychologists agree that just rewarding kids for things that you would expect them to do is not the secret. It's the way to make them feel good about themselves. While it's good to feel good about yourself, of course, you don't want to go too far and become narcissistic, but the way to feel a sense of security about who you are, it's important. And I've talked about this in a very early episode, and I think most psychologists agree now that the way to do that is to find things in your life that you like to do and that you feel are important to do, and try to do those, and you will hopefully succeed. You'll have successful experiences, and that'll make you feel good. It'll reflect back on you when you work on your talents, whatever they may be, and you get involved in activities that you enjoy. You're going to feel good about yourself, right? And the accomplishments that you experience will make you feel good. That's why a lot of psychology books are just so fat. They're just so thick, but I think the ideas are basic. And the only other thing really I think about self-esteem is that it naturally ebbs and flows throughout life. There are rough times for everyone. There are times that are difficult. Adolescence is difficult. Self-esteem tends to kind of dip in there. It's a difficult time. So sometimes it's just unavoidable to have a period of life that just doesn't feel good to you. And you have to kind of live through it and come out the other side and do try to find experiences that make you feel, activities that make you feel good about yourself. And in fact, one thing, so two things I wanted to mention is, one is there was a very recent commencement address, high school commencement address, that went viral because the speaker essentially had that message. It was called "You're Not Special." Maybe you've heard about it, and I'll probably embed it into the webpage on www.thepsychfiles.com. So in the speech, he essentially says these very same things, and let me just quote, if I may, from the speech by David McCullough Jr. He says, "If everyone is special, then no one is." This is exactly what the movie The Incredibles was about. A whole movie, millions of dollars to make this Pixar movie about how if everyone is treated as if they're special, then just specialness gets lost, and our sense of accomplishment gets lost, and all the value that comes from working hard and succeeding is lost if we simply give away to everyone some sense of specialness. But anyway, so let me go back to his quote. Quote, "If everyone is special, then no one is. If everyone gets a trophy, trophies become meaningless. We have of late, we Americans, to our detriment, come to love accolades more than genuine achievement. We have come to see them as the point, and we're happy to compromise standards or ignore reality if we suspect that that's the quickest way or the only way to have something to put on the mantelpiece, something to pose with, to crow about, something with which to leverage ourselves into a better spot on the social totem pole." Continuing his quote, "I hope you've learned enough to recognize how little you know. As you commence then, and before you scatter to the winds, I urge you to do whatever you do for no reason other than you love it and you believe in its importance." Right? That's just so key. Okay, last part of his quote. "Climb the mountain not to plant your flag, but to embrace the challenge. Enjoy the air and behold the view. Climb it so you can see the world, not so that the world can see you. Go to Paris to be in Paris, not to cross it off your list and congratulate yourself for being worldly. The sweetest joys of life come only with the recognition that you're not special." So, do the things that you love and make sure that they're good, strong, hard goals, and you will feel great about yourself. And so, getting back to why you hate psychology, if you think that, psychologists think that this is all we should just tell everyone, only thing I'll say is we're not, it's not all our fault. I guess that's what I'll say. I can't say that, we're not the only ones I think we started the idea, give it credit to Carl Rogers and Abraham Maslow, but I don't think we meant for it to become what it's become. That's what I'll say about that. Okay, another reason, positive thinking. The idea that if you change your thoughts, you can change your life. Now talk about psychobabble, and I have to say here, I just think that's a lot of garbage, because it implies that if all you have to do, it's very simple. All you have to do is just change your thoughts, and you'll change your life. That is such an extraordinary simplification, and of what it's really like to try to change the way you think, because it's really very, very hard. So when I see stuff about, just keep in mind that the law of attraction is not psychology. Okay? I know that there's parts of it that have the ring of psychology, but it's not. Now, we do believe that the way you think is important to look at, right? Albert Ellis, Aaron Beck, Martin Seligman, these are big names in psychology, and they do encourage us to examine the things that we say to ourselves. But it's not as simple as just saying, every day in every way, life is better. That's extraordinarily simplistic. Yes, it's important to look at your thinking and look at where you are distorting thinking. It becomes unrealistic, or your expectations of yourself are unrealistic for anyone. So, globalizing things, saying things like, oh, I'm a terrible person, or I'll always fail. I'm going to fail this, I'm going to fail that. I fail at everything I do. I hear my kids get into these rants. And, you as a parent, as a friend, and as a therapist, you come into that situation and you try to help them to say, look, let's hold on. Don't go too far with this. You didn't do so well in this particular situation, but it's, don't let it color everything in your life. And so you, on the other end, might be saying, all right, I know, sometimes I do that. It's a very active process, and it's very hard to change these sort of habitual ways of thinking. So if you think that psychology is all about a bunch of positive thinking psychobabble, then I could understand why you would hate it. There's good and bad people in every field. People who will simplify and really, when you say that people are depressed because they have, they think poorly or whatever, you have no understanding of the difficulty of what it is like to be depressed. When I was young in my career, I had a chance to live with people who were diagnosed with schizophrenia and depression, and that was a rough job. It was a rough job. It was rough to see these people suffer so much. So it is painful to see self-help books and tweets, all about how if you just change your thinking, you can change your life. It's just not that easy. There certainly is a kernel of truth in that we need to look at the way we think, and is it rational, and how does the way we think affect the way we feel. But you can't just change, overnight. I haven't seen that happen. It's just an oversimplification of the process. And I think the people who write the books and tweet about this sort of thing wish that it was true. They wish it for themselves. They wish it for others. But and that's why I think somebody said, you got to be careful about Twitter, because you would wind up feeling depressed, because people always tweet about all this positive stuff. I mean, of course, who wants to tweet about the negative stuff? Who wants to tweet, I'm feeling depressed today? Right? Nobody would follow you, probably. On the other hand, if you tweet all of this rose-colored glasses stuff, I don't know. I think that's a disservice to our field. So, to sum up then, because I do want to do another episode on this. If you hate psychology because of the self-esteem movement, all I can do is kind of apologize there and say, well, okay, it started out, with a really good idea, and it kind of moved around and became something that I don't think anyone intended. And if you read, I will have a link to a really good article by a psychologist who talks about the speech that David McCullough gave, and she sort of interprets it. Her name is Marilyn Price Mitchell, PhD, one of the bloggers on the Psychology Today site. So I'll give you that, and she goes into it, and I think that's worth reading for sure. A more realistic portrait of what psychologists think about this self-esteem movement. And the other idea then about it's all a bunch of positive thinking is, again, a simplification and really not representative of what most psychologists think today. Okay, take care. See you next time. One last thing. Remember to check out my memory course. You can use these strategies to get better grades on your tests, to remember people's names, and even help you to remember those jokes you keep forgetting. So you will be amazed. avid.fm/memorymaster. That's avid, AVID.fm/memorymaster. Thanks.